There is a moment, somewhere between the third bar of the month and the quiet habit of grabbing the same package off the shelf, where most people stop thinking about what they are actually buying. Skin cleansers look simple on the outside. Saturated packaging, soft illustrations, promises about gentleness, freshness, smoothness, and a kind of everyday luxury that almost nobody ever tries to verify. The category has been engineered to feel like a choice you do not need to think about. And that is exactly why it deserves a closer look. Because here is the uncomfortable reality. Across the most common grocery, drugstore, and convenience store aisles, the products that millions of people reach for are not delivering what their branding suggests. They are delivering fragrance. They are delivering filler. They are delivering marketing so confident that it actively discourages you from flipping the bar over and reading the small 4-line ingredient panel hidden on the back. The longer you trust the wrapper, the more value the wrapper quietly extracts from you. The longer you trust the scent, the more you accept a formulation you would never willingly choose if anyone described it out loud. Today, we are going to break that illusion. 6 soap brands sitting on millions of bathroom shelves right now do not deserve your trust in the way their ads imply. 5 others quietly do. By the end, you will not just know which is which, you will finally understand why the difference matters, and how to see it for yourself the next time you stand in front of that aisle. To understand why this aisle is so easy to get wrong, you have to understand what most bar soaps are actually doing in your bathroom. A traditional soap, in the chemical sense, is a salt made from a fatty acid combined with an alkali. Olive oil, sodium hydroxide, and thyme equals a clean biodegradable bar that rinses away. But most bars that still call themselves soap are doing something very different. They are largely synthetic detergent bars, often called Syndet bars, which behave more like a detergent in the shower than a true saponified oil. That distinction matters, because detergent bars can feel gentler in some respects and harsher in others, and are formulated with very different priorities than a Castile or a coconut oil bar. Yet nobody on the front of these packages is in a hurry to tell you that. What you do see is fragrance, dyes, foam boosters, hardening agents, fillers, preservatives, and a marketing department carefully crafting the illusion that the more expensive the bar, the more virtuous the formulation. Some are labeled moisturizing. Some are labeled antibacterial. Some promise dermatologist-tested reassurance. Some trade on heritage. Few of those promises are actually backed by an ingredient list that justifies them. That gap is what we are about to walk through, brand by brand, beginning with the worst offender and climbing toward the brands that actually earn their place in your shower. Number 6 on our list of brands to skip is one of the most recognized names in the category. Irish Spring has spent decades selling men the idea of a forest-fresh morning shower. The green packaging, the blue water imagery, the rugged, almost outdoorsy tone. It feels like a soap that has been doing its job since childhood. But the inside of that package does not match the outside. The fragrance load in Irish Spring is among the heaviest per gram anywhere in the category. Multiple synthetic fragrance ingredients are layered together to recreate that signature scent, and they linger on the skin long after the bar is rinsed. For most adult skin, that level of fragrance is unnecessary. For sensitive skin, it raises legitimate questions about why so much of the price of the bar is going towards scent rather than towards simple cleansing ingredients. The base formulation is also built around harsher surfactants than you typically find in a more thoughtfully made bar. When you shower daily with a bar like this, the compromise shows up over a longer arc. You might not notice it on day 1, you might not notice it on month 1, but over years the formulation quietly tells on your skin, especially on the forearms, the chest, and the shins where dryness shows up first. A bar that markets itself as fresh and rugged is essentially asking you to pay a fragrance premium for a less considerate base formula. Once you can see that, the Irish Spring bargain gets much less attractive. Number 5 on this countdown is one of the most aggressively marketed skin-loving bars in the entire category. Caress Daily Silk has spent decades selling a feeling. The packaging is soft. The bar itself is oval and pearlized. The branding uses words like silk, satin, velvet, and endless gentle moisturizing. The product even uses a soft-edged brand name designed to feel tactile. But if you flip the bar over and read the actual ingredient list, that fantasy of gentleness starts to fade. The ingredient panel begins with hardening salts and synthetic surfactants, and as you work down the list, you find multiple fragrance ingredients rather than one, plus a notable amount of dyes and optical brighteners that contribute to the visual softness of the bar itself rather than any softness it actually delivers to your skin. The moisturizing claim of a bar like this rarely comes from any meaningful emollient in the formulation. It comes from a marketing illusion of softness supported by additives that make the bar feel silky in the hand before it is ever wet. Once the bar is on the skin, the perceived smoothness is mostly the residue of detergents interacting with hard water on your body. That is not the kind of silkiness your skin will thank you for at the end of the day. What Caress is really selling here is the visual and emotional promise of being soft, conveniently packaged in a form that does not require the buyer to verify the claim. The feeling is gorgeous. The formula does not deliver on it. Number 4 is one of the oldest marketing gimmicks in the category: Ivory Original. For more than a century, this brand has insisted that its bar is 99 and 44/100% pure. That phrase was invented in the 1880s as a way of telling customers the soap contained no fillers, and it became one of the most enduring advertising slogans in American consumer history. But purity, the way this brand has always used the word, was never a meaningful definition. It was a slogan. And the modern Ivory bar has very little in common with whatever the brand's earliest formulations actually contained. Today's Ivory uses a blend of sodium tallowate and sodium cocoate, combined with hardening salts and a fragrance load that is heavier than most bars in its price range. It floats. That is also a deliberate gimmick engineered during manufacturing, rather than a sign of anything purer or gentler than competing bars. The bar dries quickly, leaves a film on some skin types, and is not the kind of formulation a dermatologist would point you toward if you had dry or reactive skin. What Ivory is really selling is nostalgia. It is selling you a phrase your grandmother trusted, and in the modern soap aisle, where dozens of genuinely gentle bars are available for nearly the same price, nostalgia is a poor substitute for transparency. The 99 and 44/100ths number is not a problem because of what it measures. It is a problem because it convinces people they do not need to look at the ingredient list on the back of the bar. And that is exactly the kind of confidence a thoughtful shopper should never accept on faith. Number 3 on the countdown is one of the most recognizable fragrance-led bars on American shelves: Zest Fresh. The brand sells the idea of zest, of course. Citrus, coolness, a clean, almost slippery morning. The packaging is unmistakable, and the scent has been a defining memory of American showers for several generations. But look closely at what Zest actually delivers. The bar is built on a relatively basic surfactant base, and the dominant feature of the formulation is its fragrance. Zest uses synthetic fragrance at a level considerably higher than is necessary for the simple task of cleansing skin. Multiple fragrance ingredients are stacked together. A notable amount of dye gives the bar its two-tone look, and the actual cleansing base is thinner and harsher than most competitors in the same price tier. For some skin types, particularly already dry or balance-sensitive skin, Zest reads as brisk and clean, but in practice it tends to leave skin feeling tight shortly after rinsing, especially in winter or in homes with hard water. The sensation many people interpret as freshness is in part the absence of any meaningful emollient and the residue of strong fragrance layered over that absence. Nobody talks about Zest as a moisturizing bar. The brand has never leaned into that claim. What the brand has leaned into, generation after generation, is the freshness feeling itself. And as with the other bars on this list, that feeling is convincing precisely because the formulation is light on actual skin conditioning ingredients. A truly fresh-feeling bar is not one that strips and then fragrances. It is one that cleans without removing too much of the surface integrity your skin is trying to maintain. Zest, like the others, trades thoughtful formulation for high-confidence branding. Number 2 on our countdown is one of the most heavily advertised antibacterial bars in the United States: Dial Complete. The brand sells a story about round-the-clock odor protection. It is positioned for people who want to feel confident after the gym, after a long commute, after a workday that stretches late. The packaging usually shows bold blue or silver accents, and the visual language is engineered to communicate clinical effectiveness. But the antibacterial cleansing story has changed meaningfully. The original formulation once relied on triclosan, an ingredient that became the subject of substantial regulatory and scientific scrutiny during the last decade. Although the brand has reformulated, the story being sold still depends on the assumption that antibacterial is somehow better than plain cleansing. For everyday use, antibacterial soaps have not been shown by independent research to deliver meaningful health benefits beyond what a normal soap already provides. The base formulation still includes synthetic surfactants, fragrance, dyes, and a product structure designed more around shelf longevity and foam than around skin condition. Even when the original active ingredient was removed, much of the rest of the formulation continues to do what most mass-market bars do. It delivers fragrance, delivers foam, and leans hard on the perception that an antibacterial feeling bar must clean more thoroughly. If you find yourself a little itchy after a morning shower with a strong antibacterial bar, that experience is not in your head. It is the formulation interacting with skin that does not need that level of intervention. Most buyers are better served by simpler options down the aisle. Dial Complete is best understood as a brand that built its identity around an old, now defensible in context antibacterial claim, and has not yet fundamentally revised the user experience to match what shoppers actually want in a modern cleansing bar. And that brings us to number 1 on the countdown. A brand that is, ironically, the gentlest selling of all, and the one that conceals the biggest labeling gap in the entire category. Dove Beauty Bar. For most consumers, Dove feels almost above suspicion. It is the brand you reach for when you want to be kind to your own skin. The packaging is calm. The ads feature real bodies, real conversations about beauty, real warmth. The message for 2 decades has been the same. This is the mild, gentle, moisturizing bar. The bar feels creamy in the hand. It feels substantial. It leaves a softer finish than most mass-market bars. On the shelf, no other bar trusts itself quite like Dove does. But flip the package over. Read the ingredient list. The very first cleansing ingredient in Dove Beauty Bar is not in fact a true soap at all. It is sodium lauryl isethionate, a synthetic detergent. That is not a marketing trick. It is a chemistry fact. The bar you are holding is technically a Syndet bar rather than a true soap. Most consumers do not know that. Most buy Dove because the word beauty bar suggests something gentle and naturally derived, and they assume the word soap applies because that is how we casually talk about the product. But the regulatory distinction between a soap and a cosmetic cleansing bar is real, and Dove has built a multi-billion-dollar identity on a formulation that does not even legally qualify as soap in some parts of the world. That distinction does not mean Dove is bad. Many dermatologists do appreciate the mildness of the Syndet base. But the trust gap between Dove's gentle, natural-feeling branding and the actual chemistry of the bar is the single widest in the entire category. A shopper who reads Beauty Bar and assumes a fatty acid-based soap is being misled. Not because the company is lying, because the word Beauty Bar is technically accurate, but because the emotional implication of that word, combined with the visual warmth of the brand, sets an expectation about the formulation that the ingredient panel does not satisfy. That is why Dove sits at number 1 on this countdown. The brand is not the harshest formula on the shelf. The brand is the most confidently mislabeled perception in the category. And once you can see that gap, you can stop trusting the gentle wrapper as a proxy for a thoughtfully formulated product. Now pause for a moment. If you have been buying any of these 6 bars for years, you are not a careless buyer. You are the kind of buyer the category was specifically engineered to reassure. The marketing is excellent because it was designed to be. We are not scolding anyone tonight. We are simply trading one layer of trusting the wrapper for one layer of trusting the list. And once you cross that line, the rest of the aisle starts to look completely different. Because here is the good news. The soap aisle has never had better options than it has right now. For every brand charging a premium for fragrance and branding, there is a brand doing the opposite, selling you a cleaner formulation, a clearer ingredient list, and a smaller number of ingredients you actually need to know about. We are about to walk through 5 of them. Number 5 on the Worth It list is one of the most widely available dermatologist-style bars on the market, CeraVe Cleansing Bar. Few mainstream body care brands discuss their formulas with the level of specificity that CeraVe does. The brand focuses on ceramides, the natural lipids that hold your skin's moisture barrier together, along with hyaluronic acid, which is hard to find in a mass-market bar cleanser. Even more important than any single ingredient is the philosophy. CeraVe does not claim to moisturize your skin through the bar alone. It claims to cleanse without stripping the moisture barrier your body is already trying to maintain. For people whose skin tends to feel tight or itchy after a shower, that distinction is enormous. The formulation is also notably free from strong fragrance, which puts CeraVe visibly apart from the bars we just covered. The bar feels gentle on the skin, leaves no harsh residue, and behaves like a cleanser designed for someone who actually thinks about skin barrier health, which is the entire direction the category is finally moving. The brand is also widely available in most major retailers and pharmacies, making it a practical upgrade rather than a specialty store pursuit. For most consumers watching this, the simplest single upgrade from any of the 6 skip list bars is moving to a CeraVe product and seeing how the next 30 days feel. The difference tends to show up faster than you expect. Number 4 on the Worth It list is a brand that has been quietly building one of the cleanest, most transparent bar formulations in the category. Attitude Super Leaves Cleansing Bar. Few brands at this price point disclose as much about their formulations as Attitude does. The brand is consistently transparent about fragrance components, ingredient sourcing, and what is not inside the bar. The product is built around plant-derived cleansers with disclosed essential oil-based fragrance, and the ingredient panels on most SKUs are short enough that a first-time shopper can read them in under a minute. There is no triclosan, no parabens, no phthalates, and no foam shortcuts. The bar produces a moderate, controlled lather, and the scent comes from declared botanical essential oils rather than undisclosed synthetic fragrance layers. Attitude is also one of the few brands in this tier that publishes third-party safety assessments on a meaningful number of their SKUs, which adds another layer of trust for buyers who like to verify what they are reading. There is also a thoughtful skincare dimension here. The bar is designed to cleanse without drying, and tends to be well tolerated even by skin that has struggled with fragrance-heavy bars over years of use. For shoppers transitioning away from any of the 6 brands we just walked through, Attitude is a practical, accessible, transparent option that requires no special ordering or specialty store trip. It is widely available in most major retailers, which makes it one of the easier entry points into cleaner bar soap shopping. Number 3 on our Worth It list is the brand that dermatologists have been quietly recommending for decades: Vanicream Cleansing Bar. Vanicream's entire product philosophy is built around what is not in their formulations: no fragrance, no dyes, no masking fragrance, no unnecessary botanicals, no harsh sulfates. The brand has spent decades refining what to leave out, and the result is one of the most consistently tolerated cleansing bars on the American market. For people with sensitive skin, eczema-prone skin, or anyone whose skin has reacted to fragrance-led bars for years, Vanicream is the closest thing to a boring, trustworthy, take-the-question-out-of-the-purchase bar you can buy. The minimal ingredient list reflects that philosophy directly. The bar rinses cleanly. It does not impose a strong scent on the skin afterward, because there is no real scent to impose. It cleans without stripping, which for many buyers means their skin keeps its own moisture barrier instead of having to replace it every morning from ingredients in a product designed to undo the cleansing they just paid for. It is also a bar you can find in most major pharmacies, often sitting right next to the very brands we identified as some of the worst offenders on this list. The lesson here is not that Vanicream is the only good option. The lesson is that a brand can sell gentleness without leaning on fragrance, and that bar is quieter, more honest, and more durable than its louder neighbors on the shelf. Number 2 on our Worth It list is a brand that has been doing almost exactly the right thing for an exceptionally long time: Kirk's Coco Castile. The soap has been around since the late 1800s, in essentially unchanged form, and Kirk's modern formulation is still built around saponified coconut oil, glycerin, and very little else. There is no synthetic fragrance. There is no dye. There are no optical brighteners. The label is one of the shortest in the entire category. For buyers who want a true traditional soap, the kind of bar that was the historical default before Sindet bars took over the category, Kirk's Coco Castile is the brand that did not stray. The bar rinses cleanly. It does not produce excessive foam, which can confuse first-time users. But the cleansing performance is real. The mild coconut oil base is well tolerated by most skin types, including skin that has reacted poorly to fragrance-led bars over years of use. The other thing worth noting is price. Kirk's Coco Castile is not a luxury purchase. It is an inexpensive, widely distributed, generously sized bar that delivers the kind of formulation that justifies its price tag. There is a quiet kind of value here that the big advertising brands do not deliver, and once you hold the bar in your hand and read the 4-line ingredient list, the difference between this and the bars we walked through earlier feels enormous. For shoppers who want a soap that respects the old chemistry of the category without paying boutique pricing for it, Kirk's Coco Castile is one of the most honest choices on the shelf. And our #1 worth-it pick is the most transparent cleanser in mass retail. Dr. Bronner's Pure Castile. The packaging is famous. The labels are filled with dense philosophical text, dense reuse instructions, and an ingredient list that is unusually small compared to its competitors. That short list is the entire point. The classic formulation is built around saponified organic oils, including coconut, olive, palm, hemp, and jojoba, plus water and rosemary extract. There is no synthetic fragrance. There is no foam-boosting detergent. There is no optical brightener. The scent options come from essential oils, which the brand discloses individually. A shopper can read every word on the label and understand exactly what they are putting on their skin. Compare that to a brand like Irish Spring, where the panel lists 8 synthetic fragrance ingredients and never breaks them down. Dr. Bronner's also behaves differently in the shower. Because real Castile soap is low sudsing, first-time users often interpret the lather as weak. In practice, the formulation cleans thoroughly and rinses without leaving much residue, which is exactly what healthy skin wants. There is a small adjustment curve if you have spent a decade conditioning yourself to expect foam. But buyers who make the change routinely report that their skin feels different in a way they can describe: calmer, less dry, and less reactive. The brand is also unusually honest about concentration. A tiny amount goes a long way. Multiple uses per bottle. The product is reliably available in most natural food stores and increasingly in major retailers. For shoppers who want maximum label transparency without paying boutique pricing for it, Dr. Bronner's Pure Castile is the cleanest countertop decision most people can make. So if you walk into the aisle tomorrow and remember nothing else from this video, remember this. The brand on the front is selling you a feeling. The ingredient list on the back is telling you the truth. And every decision you make between those two layers is either a step away from value or a step toward it. Most of the bars we just walked through were priced higher than the ones we recommended. Many of them are still on shelves because the marketing works. None of that is your fault. Now that you have seen the contrast, the choice is yours. If you have been using any of the brands we just covered, drop a comment below and tell me about your experience. Did switching change how your skin felt? Did the formula break you out, dry you out, or was it perfectly fine for your skin? Have you already been using one of the 5 on the right side of the list? Tell me which one, and what made you switch. The comments on this channel are some of the most useful conversations anywhere on the platform, and they help all of us figure out which products are actually earning their trust. If you want me to break down another category the same way, suggest it below. We will do the same sourcing, the same label analysis, and the same honesty, brand by brand, until the aisle actually makes sense.